people just think that, hey, if I just learn how to be really charismatic, if I learn how to dress really well, then I can take really good photos and then I'm probably going to be able to find someone, right? But actually, there's so many different stages in dating and actually relationship. You have to learn how to be really good at it pretty much like every single step of the way.
Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. I'm your host, May Bugenhagen. I am the founder of Two Asian Matchmakers. It's a boutique matchmaking company that started in Los Angeles and now it is all over the US and in Asia. So if you're a lovely Asian woman out there who wants to find a great guy, please join my database so you are part of my Rolodex and I can find you. And today I have a very special guest, Stephen Choi. He is an authentic connection coach and entrepreneur dedicated to guiding people in forming deep, meaningful connections. His extensive nomadic life across diverse cultures drive his commitment to connecting people globally and helping them find their tribe. Through his coaching, Stephen transforms clients into inspiring souls, effortlessly sharing their authentic selves, positivity, and love, and paving the way for lives filled with extraordinary, soulful relationships. Welcome to the show, Stephen. How are you?
Thank you, May. Wow, what a what a hell of an intro. I appreciate that.
And
As
I
you're
said
reading it,
it
I can see
without
that.
making any
Like,
mistakes.
wow.
Yeah, no, you're amazing. I mean, that was a very nice intro. Now, tell us where you're located. Tell us a little bit of your life story and how you got into this field like 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Currently, am meeting you over Zoom here in Seoul, Korea. This is where I spent my childhood. Ever since I was born, I've moved every 1 to 2 years across different continents and cultures. So what that meant was that throughout my childhood, I think a lot of the time I felt like an outsider. And I think sometimes I got bullied a lot for no apparent reason, for reasons that I couldn't really understand or wrap my head around. And then this nomadic lifestyle and journey continued on as I moved across the US and Europe and everywhere. And even as I became an adult, I found myself like always moving around, always feeling like, wow, I'm a new person here. What can I do to actually find my friend, find my like first genuine friend, and actually build my own social circle, build my own community. And yeah, my coaching journey kind of began about 10 years ago after I realized that at the time I was living in New York, and a friend of mine told me that, hey, like, in the US, like being an Asian guy who's not particularly jacked, but like like the kind of stuff that you do, kind of approaching women cold, sober, and then just generating attraction. It's kind of like you're kind of like a magician, and then it kind of defies all stereotypes and expectations. So like what you do is just like really, really special. I want you to know that. So one of my closest friends told me that, and I realized that I never really thought that it was anything special because I'm just immersed in my own thing, right? I'm just doing what I'm doing. Um, and then ever since that moment that my friend mentioned that to me, I had a few people kind of tell me the same things, and they would ask me for that. They would ask me for help essentially. So I would teach them a couple of things. And around the same time, I had a couple of friends who were building a company specifically on essentially teaching men how to approach women cold, during the day. So that kind of became whole like movement and the thing. Like I just love that vibe. And then so that kind of started 10 years ago. And then I quit my corporate job. I was kind of, like I wasn't really dating coaching full time. I was at this big tech company in New York. I quit. And then I was like, kind of want to have a go at this whole digital nomad lifestyle. Like I think I've been in the US long enough. Let's actually like travel the world and see what I can do. And then yeah, like about 4 or 5 years after that, I found myself in London. I was going through my second year of my MBA, my business school. And I realized that, oh, wow, like the entire reason why I came back to schooling, education, pursuing my MBA degree, was that I really wanted to find my higher purpose in life, my North Star vision. And what is that? Like, let's forget about, like the whole corporate route. There's nothing wrong with that. But I had done a lot of stuff like investment banking and teaching the GMAT and, teaching English, like working as a bond trader, working at a tech company, building my own digital marketing agency, like the whole gamut. And I realized that actually looking back to my childhood and really finding like what's been constant in my life and what I'm really, really focused on and committed to is actually, as when I was a kid, figuring out and navigating how to build a deep, meaningful, a community filled with deep, meaningful connections. And then as I became an adult, I realized that that's exactly the field that I find myself gravitating towards. And then I found myself actually really being passionate about teaching others to do exactly the same. So empowering humanity to form deep, meaningful connections has been my North Star vision and my higher purpose. And that's something that I really discovered 4 years ago. And then I was like, okay, that is my why. And yeah, it's good that it's very fluffy and it's not really tangible. It's okay because your why and your highest purpose is supposed to sound like that. So what is the how and what then? How am I going to actually make that happen? And yeah, for the past 4 years, I've been on this really exciting and thrilling entrepreneurial journey, kind of building different ways for people who move around a lot, people who have a higher tendency to feel like an outsider, to build a genuine sense of belonging online and offline. And then alongside with that, I realized that coaching, actually teaching people what I do and teaching people how to actually create these deep, meaningful connections wherever they go, wherever they are in the world, is something that I genuinely enjoy doing. And that's one of the most impactful ways to cause transformation. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing as well. So yeah.
That sounds amazing. It sounds like you also have the personality and the tenacity to do that. It seems like you really enjoy it. Like as I'm watching you talk about it, your eyes light up and I'm like, wow, you could probably write a book about this someday and really teach people the framework on how to develop these meaningful connections with people. So, what are some basic things that people can learn from you today to start building these meaningful relationships when they walk into a room that they don't know anybody in there?
Mm. Yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning that. Actually, a friend of mine mentioned this the other day. He was like, "Steven, you should write a book." Like, I was like, "Yeah, I'll probably take you up on it, pretty soon." As far as like some of the basic things that they can learn, it really boils down to a couple of things. First of all, it really is about like really kind of knowing yourself first, right? Even Socrates, like he said it, right? Like know thyself. And this is like an ever evolving journey. Like no one can truly say that they really know themselves that well, right? We only know about what's happened in our life, what kind of meaning interpretation we gave to our experiences, and how we actually how we operate our life, how our operating system has been designed because of interpretation that we gave to these different experiences. So really kind of sitting down and writing down like, your experiences and being really honest with that, and really, like start accepting yourself fully, really start being on that journey. That's a start. And it's only when you're really okay with that, when whether it be like bad or good and all that stuff, like, you just really owning yourself, your entire self, really beginning the process really is the first step. And I can talk about like literally 24 hours on this subject, but I'll stop there. And then from there, it's all about when you meet someone new, how people say like, wow, like that person's so charismatic. That person's like, this conversation is so unforgettable. Like when you think about it, like, why does this happen? I think there's this really famous person, Maya Angelou. I think she said it like, people forget what you said. People forget what you look like. I'm probably butchering this, but they never forget how you made them feel, right? So it's all about, it's not really about what you say at the end of the day. It's not really about like, what kind of crazy persona and vibe that you have, although that helps. It's more about when you actually go up to a person, when you, let's say we met for the first time um in a bookstore, let's say, and like, I'm there to talk to you. Like, what kind of what kind of listening am I giving to you, right? And because I mean, it's kind of funny, just like thinking through, because if I'm approaching you for the first time, obviously like I want to like say something, and then like once there is like a mutual interest, once I find that once I've identified that you're interested in talking to me, then I want to like give my listening to you. But it's really about, listening to the person in front of you, like really, really, really deeply. A lot of the time, people have this tendency where, it's like a conversation is like, instead of really listening to what's being said, like you're constantly thinking of like, okay, what am I going to say in response to, what's being just said, right? And we can't help it, right? It's just like how we've been trained. But it's really about actually going down, like really going deeper. Let's say if they said that, hey, I spent a lot of time growing up in like Sweden and all that stuff. And it's like a lot of the time people will be like, oh, Sweden, that's nice. Oh, I've been there. Or like my friend has been there. Well, guess what? No one cares about, where, if you've been there, if that person's been there, it's more about, okay, like, okay, so like that's quite interesting, assuming that we're in the US. Um, so like, your adjustment has been pretty difficult. Like, hey, in the US, when I think of Sweden, I think of uh, IKEA, Vikings, and meatballs, right? Like it's pretty funny. But like, how was your childhood like shaped? Like how did you grow up? Like what, like, so you kind of like really go deeper in a really fun way. And then a lot of that conversation comes from like you actually genuinely listening to that person in front of you. And then it's only then like, your actual, like what you actually say in response to that starts mattering. But it's really about, I would say, to make it simple, to simplify, first of all, identifying what you're really, really about at the end of the day. And then what kind of people, like in response to that, what kind of people with specific traits and values that you like to meet, and like really being specific with that. And then when you have a chance to meet and vibe with some people, actually really giving this like very empathetic listening to them. So at the end of the conversation, they can help but feel like, wow, like I feel like this person really, really gets me, or like I feel like I don't think I've ever had this conversation before. This is such a unique conversation. Like that was I think I've had a breakthrough just by having this conversation. So that's the kind of vibe that it's not easy to do, but this is like a really powerful way for you to actually become a very authentic, like a powerful way for you to express your authentic self.
Did you feel that way when we were talking before the recording came on, as I was asking you all those questions about your life?
Hell yeah. I would be a liar if I told you if I
Oh,
didn't feel that way. You're really good.
I do like what you said about Maya Angelou's quote or misquoting or whatever. I get the gist of it, and that's true. It's a lot of times when people go on dates, they don't remember the person or the little basic information, but the man or woman remembers how they felt. Did they feel secure on the date? Did they feel good about themselves on the date? And did they feel good enough to want to be around this person again? So that's the whole point, right? Like every first date, the whole goal is to try to get a second date, like be so nice and caring and genuine and interesting that they want to ask you out again. Like I always
Exactly.
tell the men and women, like, even though you don't want to see that person again, like, try to be a good dater that they want to see you again. Like, isn't that the end goal is try to be a good dater? And if you practice being a good dater and you are kind and sweet and genuine, it's going to rub off on the other person and they're going to be kind and sweet and genuine or funny and to make the date go better. So, yeah. Um,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. No, just to quickly comment on that, I think what you're mentioning is that it's almost like it's almost like like some type of some level of conversational leadership, right? It's almost like if you want the vibe to be genuine and authentic and caring and sweet, well, be that person first. Like, don't wait for that vibe to happen. Just be that.
So I know you live in Korea, but you're also very westernized. You've lived all over. Like, how have your own cross cultural experiences influenced or affected your approach to your business in coaching and relationship building? Like, do you take little pieces of all these places you've been to and have a mashup of different cultures and different ways to guide you in your coaching?
Definitely. I think because I tend to be very like global, and then it's just something that I don't even notice that I do. But whenever I meet someone who's from like a specific place or country, I tend to sort of utilize like what I know about that place, and then I tend to say a couple of things, and they're like, "Wow, like how do you know this type of stuff, right?" Or like even phrases, or like just like saying a certain thing, just like making them really feel welcome, right? So I've noticed that that's something that I do, and that's something that this type of approach is something that I teach to my clients, and a lot of my clients, because that's the kind of vibe that I have. Like a lot of my clients tend to be those that want to emulate this type of like international vibe and experience, right? For example, like let's say I had a client before, and he was a Japanese guy. He studied in Australia, and so he knows how to speak English, but he wants to expand further, right? He wants to like meet a lot of different people from all walks of life all over the world. And like my other client, like really similar, right? Like they want to kind of meet, like they don't have this like, hey, I need to meet this person from this nationality. It's more like, hey, at the end of the day, human beings are human beings, right? It's more about actually like learning how to like present your authentic self. And interestingly enough, even probably because of the fact that I've been fortunate to have experienced all these different range of different cultures. It's kind of helped me become this person that, hey, like it's even though people from different cultures behave differently, at the end of the day, like we're all exactly the same. And it's more about how to present yourself, how to express your authentic self in a really fun way. So yeah, so like because the cultural background has been so like all over the place, a lot of my clients kind of like emulate this vibe. And then also what I teach tends to have this air of, hey, like it doesn't really matter what your skin color looks like, what your cultural values are. Like those things are important. I'm not saying that they're not important, but at the end of the day, what creates that initial bridge, that connection, is actually like, are you an empathetic person, and are you a fun person? Like how do you actually communicate in an empathetic and authentic way? How do you actually lead the interaction, right? Obviously being attuned to the different cultural like the differences. So yeah, that's what I would say.
So you're in your 30s now. How many countries would you say you visited in your lifetime?
Yeah, like I haven't counted, probably 30, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's different types of travelers. There's one bucket is like they just like to kind of tick off all the boxes, right? And then go to as many countries as possible. For me, I found that there's a few countries that I really like, and I keep on going back there and build more connections and leave and come back and again. So yeah.
I feel like people should really put that on their yearly goal is to go to one international country a year, like just to explore. Like, just think about it. Like, even if they've only been to Japan or Singapore or Taiwan, in a date conversation, they can actually talk about their experiences in these countries, especially if they're dating someone who's from Singapore or someone who's Taiwanese or Korean, that kind of stuff. Like just to actually have that world kind of point of view and the world knowledge and be worldly, I think that's so key. I don't understand how people can not have a passport when they're like 25 years old. It's like, don't you have dreams to go and visit other countries and just see what it's like outside of the US or outside of Korea or, all these places? There's so much to do and so many things to accomplish in those countries. And I don't know, I just feel like almost everybody need to travel to get some kind of experience to make them more fun when they're dating, right? To talk about things, to be more open-minded. So, yeah. Yeah. So in your experience, what are the key elements for building genuine, meaningful connections in today's dating world? Like what's some advice you can give us?
Yeah. The first thing for you to build a deep, meaningful connection with someone is to actually, instead of trying to build a deep, meaningful connection with someone else, try to build and actually build, like genuinely build a deep, meaningful connection with yourself first.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is that a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, I would say, it's actually 100% of the time, we are meaning machines. What I mean by that is that, you know, how like it's similar to how, your computer, your laptop has an operating system. We also have our own operating system. So in your childhood, something happens to you, and something happens to you that you gave some type of emotional response to, like you attach certain interpretation, you give certain meaning to it, and instead of that event being its event only, and then you're just being chill with it, like you become sort of you interpret it, right? And then, like, for example, like using my own example, like when I was a kid, I remember being in this English classroom. I think I must have been in like second or third grade, and the first 2 years of my schooling education, I went to this private Christian school, right? And then English education was like really really good, and I just learned how to pronounce certain words, right, pretty decently. And then when I moved to this regular public high school, um, again we're in this English class, and I was chatting with the teacher about something, and then it was pretty clear that, like, just by the way my fellow classmates were looking at me, like they looked at me very different. It was like, what is this new kid doing here? Like, having a English conversation with the teacher, And I think it was just like I was very different. But then, my dad, being American educated, he always kind of like taught me to stand out, be different, ask questions, whatever. And then I kind of stood out, and like I really felt I was heavily punished for it, right? Like I started getting bullied by my classmates and all that stuff. So basically, what I made that experience mean was that, hey, I I I cannot raise my opinion. I can't really I can't stand out, like I should just shut up and not speak. Otherwise, I get punished for it. And that's kind of like that's kind of how I've been operating. So like it took me a long time to actually really complete this experience, right? And there's like a whole like exercise you can do to really complete your experience and how to start accepting yourself. I actually made a video about it about a week ago. I'll put the link in the description below. But yeah, so it's more about really kind of really start developing a deep, meaningful connection with yourself and being whole and complete with yourself. Only then, when you go out and start interacting with other people, you can show up in this wholesome and genuine way. And when something happens, instead of like your usual operating machine, like operating system, you're giving like meaning interpretation, you are just observing things as they are, and then you're like, yeah, it's cool that that's how you think about it. Let me actually think about why you think about it, or like if you could tell me why you think about it, I'd appreciate it. And then you start having this like really uplifting conversations, and that's actually how you start building a deep, meaningful connection. So it all starts from yourself, and then I can talk more about how you can actually show up and everything. But the most important thing is actually to listen. Yeah, like we talked about the Maya Angelou quote again, but yeah, it's more about, really being there for the person in front of you, and then really listening carefully about what they have to say, and then really being there for them. And a lot of the time, like, when you have a conversation, it starts opening, they start opening up, and start kind of prodding for not only facts but stories. So they start telling like their deeper emotions, and like, you kind of really just kind of like going along for the ride with them again, and then just really being there for them. So that's kind of like, I would say, the key to start building a really, really genuine connection.
The way you're talking about building genuine connections is kind of how a salesperson also builds that rapport with the person they're selling to. Is as I do my own sales for my matchmaking, I don't interrupt the client. I just let them talk. I just let them talk, ask questions, and follow up and take notes. I'm a big note taker. As you can see, I've been taking notes as we're talking, and because I'm a visual person. So I feel like, okay, I'm armed with some stuff that I could reflect on our podcast at the end. Like, okay, what did I learn? What did Stephen teach me? Or what did he show me? So I think that's important to building connections, to ask follow-up questions, and like you said, to listen and really genuinely be present in the moment and not think, what am I going to ask Stephen as soon as he's done talking? It's like, just go with the flow. And sometimes it's also okay to just say, you know what, I don't even know what I was thinking to ask you. I just got so absorbed in what you were talking about that I actually don't have a question prepared, so it's okay to admit that too. So, yeah. What are some common challenges your clients face in dating and relationships, and how do you guide them in overcoming these obstacles? But before you answer that, just tell the audience kind of what your niche is, who you help, and what's your specialty.
Yes, definitely. What my specialty is actually, the simplest way to think about it is that I help you become a super authentic communicator. That's my specialty. And how I do that is I help you interact with people, approach people cold. So this is like what I've been, this is what I've trained, the area I've trained in for years, for like more than a decade, actually. In the dating world, there's a term called day game. And there's some interesting connotation attached to it, but basically the idea is that, you're sober, right? And you're going out there during the day, whether it be like bookstore, mall, shop, restaurant, cafe, wherever. Like, you approach a woman that you're interested in talking to, and then you have a conversation with that person, and whether it be a number or a quick date or whatever, you kind of go from there. And yeah, at the end of the day, what I help people is like, I help them find love. And it's not just about, hey, like, let me take a look at your dating profile, and then have like quickly do a makeover, and then do this, and then you go on a date, and then you do this, and then do this, right? Although I do all of that as well, what I really specialize in is actually transforming you into a powerfully authentic leader. And when I say leader, because a lot of the time, you'd have to establish that deep, meaningful connection context in your conversation, in your approach. So I teach people how to do that. I mostly work with men. I would say 80% of them, but also I've recently started working with a lot of women, because what I find is that actually the skill to like create deep, meaningful connections, that just universal as well. So that's like what I teach. But yeah, like it's really about at the end of the day, like, if you so like the people that I teach this skill set, I like to meet up with them actually, and then whether it be like a quick weekend session or more like an extended residential session, I do it like really hands-on. That's what I really personally enjoy doing, because I get to like really impact my clients in a really, really powerful way. like really transform them. But in addition to that, like for online, I do, let's say like I do a lot of consultation for on like their profile makeovers, like online dating profiles. Also like really kind of creating like a 3 month, 6 month, like a year-long strategy, and then working with them one-on-one, and then like from helping them practicing the skill set that I teach to actually smashing it, and like doing like a weekly check-in to make sure that they're on track, and then like really helping them transform, like dating profile makeover, actually going on dates, and then like really assessing like where they're at. Are they actually showing up powerfully, authentically? So these are all the things that I help my clients with. Now, to answer the main question that you asked me, May, what are the main challenges that people have? There's a lot actually, but the first thing that I can think of right now is that, first of all, people just think that, hey, if I just learn how to be really charismatic, if I learn how to dress really well, then I can take really good photos, and then I'm probably going to be able to find someone, right? But actually, there's so many different stages in dating and actually relationship, and then you have to learn how to be really good at it pretty much like every single step of the way, right? From if we're talking about online dating, doing a profile makeover, and then actually like chatting, right? And then setting up a date, and then actually like how you communicate on the date, and then actually from there how to communicate your intention. If you really like the person, it feels like the other person kind of likes you as well, how to take it forward, right? A lot of the time people like they think that, yeah, it's just like I just need to be good at one thing and then everything will be solved. There's like a magic pill. Well, there's no magic pill. You just, similar to how back in like high school, like you just gotta be good at everything. It's like dating. It's kind of the same, but um, it's not too bad, right? Because at the end of the day, like if you learn how to present your authentic self, express like your authenticity, and like learn how to communicate empathetically in the dating context, that usually moves the needle. Obviously, it's a bit of an archaic, vague concept, but it gets better like the more you take action on it. Um, Recently, I've had a group of clients that were kind of like they were dabbling in the world of online dating or just like dating in general, and they know how to, like, their profile is fine and everything's fine. They know how to, like, they have like a little bit like a strategy as to kind of securing a date, and once they're on the date, like they also know how to kind of play it, but then a lot of the time they don't know how to move past that initial stage of like attraction. They know how to, like, joke around and like do their, just talk about fun things here and there. But a lot of times, sometimes, like, this happened to one of my really closest friends, who also became my client. uh he was going on a couple of dates. He found one girl that he really liked, and he was about to go traveling for about a couple of months. And then the girl kind of assumed that, hey, okay, so I guess I'm not going to see you again. Like, it was really good getting to know you. And then he was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I guess I'll like hit you up when I'm back in town. But then actually, like, what he really wanted to communicate was that, hey, I actually really like you. Like, I'll be gone for a couple of months, but that doesn't mean that we won't see each other again. Like, I really enjoyed our spending time together. And this is the vision I'm creating. And yeah, like, maybe it's a little bit too early, but like, based on a couple of months of like seeing each other, I really like enjoyed getting to know you, and I'd like to see what the future holds with you. And I don't want you to think that I'm just kind of like, leaving you astray and then just be gone and like just, be gone forever. But like, that's so, like, he wanted to communicate this intention, but because this, like, like the mainstream kind of tells you that, hey, you got to play cool, act cool, you should never show your intention, just play this cool guy. So like, he was never used to expressing his like true intention. He didn't want to come off sounding too needy, right? So how do you actually balance that, like expressing your authenticity, and at the same time not coming across as too needy. So that's something that I found that a lot of people that I work with recently have seem to have some trouble with. And yeah, it's just about like, again, really, I say like you got to call out the elephant in the room. And even when you say, I mean, you just said it, May, like it could sometimes you have a conversation with someone, you're just so absorbed in like in the moment that you sometimes you just kind of forget, what to say. Well, be authentic with that, and that's actually communicating your vulnerability. And if you don't communicate any vulnerability, like it's there's no, like you gotta show some cracks, and there's like you're like bulletproof. Like it's hard to really connect on this like deep authentic level. So actually, I actually told my client this. Hey, like you like you communicating to that girl that, hey, you actually want to see her again, and even while you're gone, like, like you'll still want to maintain a connection with her, and you want to see her again. Like, yeah, that might feel uncomfortable for you because you've never done this before, but when you do that, I bet you are showing your vulnerability because you're putting your heart out there, right? And you are essentially calling out the elephant in the room that, hey, like I I kind of feel a little bit awkward doing this because I've never done this before, and like I know this is like I just feel a little bit like maybe even feel insecure. I just don't know. It's like a funny feeling, but I really like you, and I just wanna like see what happens between the both of us, right? So really calling out the elephant in the room, and then like, yeah, like instead of saying like, hey, like this is what I want, I need this, we got to do this, like just put your intention out there, like this is what I want, like this is, I love to see if this is what you want to, but yeah, that's kind of like what I'm looking for. And really being authentic with it is like, that's like the key to having like a solid foundation for building something further very authentic with this person. So yeah, so that's I would say that's kind of like the solution. Really kind of, owning your authenticity, owning your vulnerability, and then still expressing how you really feel in this situation without um, pointing fingers at anyone, without like making anyone feel like right or wrong, just stating the things as they are true to you. So yeah.
Yeah, kind of like when that lady said, okay, I guess you're leaving on your trip. I guess this is it. Like he, in that scenario, should have stepped in and be like, wait, what? No, I totally had a great time with you. And I'm only going to be gone for 2 months. I was thinking I would see you again when I come back in 2 months, but is it okay that we keep in touch while I'm gone? Like I could send you some text messages or email you or whatever. Like technology makes everything so easy now, right? Like we have video, WhatsApp, we have Line, we have Facebook Messenger, we have Zoom, we have all this stuff. So it seems like you said in that scenario, he should have been like, "Wait, what? No, I was thinking that we see each other again. I really liked you." And you're right. A lot of times we don't say what we really feel, but then we talk to our friends about it or our girlfriends, and we're like, "Oh, I wish I said this. I wish I would have done that." It's like, just go ahead and say it. What do you have to lose, right? So yeah, yeah. Is there a last minute dating tip you have for the listeners out there before I let you go? Something that you felt like you taught your students or your clients that has really helped them get to the next level with dating, or something unique that we don't hear about all the time?
Absolutely. This is something that my friends told me it's a pretty groundbreaking. When I think about it, like not really, but like I'm gonna say it anyway. So let's say you met a girl, and like it's kind of moving somewhere. Let's say you matched with a girl online as well, and you're like chatting a little bit, right? And a lot of the time it's so easy for the conversation to fizzle out. especially like if you haven't really had this like a very strong, link, between the two of you. So in order for you to really tighten that, like, like really strengthen that connection, what I really usually recommend my clients do is to leave a voice note or call them. And this this requires a lot of balls, I would say, because people are so used to playing safe, right? It's just like you send them a text, and if you don't get a response back, oh, like I'm just gonna disappear now, right? And we're just like, as you said, we live in a world of like hyper connection. It's so easy to hit up someone, but also it's so easy to just like not respond to someone, right? So we live in a weird way, and because of that, uh, like when you send a voice note to someone, it's like it is really easy for you to differentiate yourself, against like everyone. And it's a really powerful way for you to communicate your vibe. What is your voice? It's like literally like a collection of your vibration, right? When you listen to someone's voice, studies say like that's kind of how people start trusting the other person. Could be like a voice note saying like, hey, it was really nice to connect with you. Just like, you know, leaving a voice note is not something that I'm used to doing, but like, I just wanna like communicate my vibe, something like that, depending on the stage of the connection. Um, and then if you have their number, just calling them. It's a little bit crazy, but I would say just that just like moves the needle a lot, especially if you're a guy. Like, be more shameless, and like that. I would say the be more shameless is like the why, the overall arching kind of. But then like the how and what tactic, I would say like voice notes, calling them, just doing something out of the ordinary that people normally don't do. People are afraid of doing because they fear that other people are going to judge them. But guess what? If you actually call them, if you actually leave them a voice notes, that shows that you've got the balls. Like you know what to do to really like you know how to be bold. And like chances are, like if they like you in that way, they're really gonna love you. So makes a lot of difference.
I totally agree. I would even suggest going one step further and FaceTime somebody. Like, look at all of our technology nowadays. I mean, I just jumped on a Messenger Facebook video with my friends and just randomly chat with them, or a person that you like. I like that idea of a voice note because if you're also kind of awkward on the phone, you can write stuff down and leave a voice note by cheating and having notes, right? So there's plenty of ways for you to stand out. But I agree, like we need to go back to old school and call the woman, call the guy. Like it's okay to do that. And for ladies out there, if you like when men call you, it's okay to call them first time to give them permission that it's okay to call you in the future, right? Because they're so texting everybody nowadays. But I like that. Let's go back to old school. So, well,
Flash and pay.
thank you, Stephen, very much. And ladies out there, remind you to fill out a profile with me so I can find you. And men, if you're looking to hire a matchmaker, please go to Two Asian Matchmakers. And I will see you guys later. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Stephen.
Thanks, May. See ya.